You are now chopping it up with the Nerd Barbershop Podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Nerd Barbershop Podcast. I'm Taryn Williams. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode and hanging out with me for a little bit. So on this episode, we will be talking about Street Fighter 6. I actually played the last closed beta, so I'll be talking about my impressions and things like that. Before we get into Street Fighter 6, this will be the final podcast of 2022. So again, I'd like to say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, and also Happy New Year's, because at the time we're recording this, the New Year hasn't happened yet, but maybe by the time you might get to this podcast, it might be 2023. So I want to get that ahead of time. So Happy New Year. Just thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Podcasts and listen to around the world. I forget how many plays it got. Spotify does like the unwrapped for your personal music listening, and if you have a podcast that uses podcasts, you get an unwrapped for the podcast as well. So I forget how many listeners it was, a few different countries, but just thank you anywhere around the world that listens to the podcast, like the podcast that just checks in, and I really do appreciate that. So again, we're gonna be getting into. I had to turn on my phone for a second. We're going to be getting into Street Fighter 6. So, Street Fighter 6 is going to be the newest installment of the Street Fighter franchise, which has been going on for 35 plus years now. I'm very, very excited for Street Fighter 6, and I was so upset I didn't get into the first closed beta, which was my mistake. I didn't fill out the Capcom ID properly, so I missed the first beta, but I was able, thank God, had my fingers crossed, was like, hey, I need to get in this. I was able to get into the second beta, and I got a chance to play. So, we'll be talking about that shortly. So Street Fighter 6 is going to be kind of, you can see, if you've seen trailers of Street Fighter 6, it's more colorful, it has a better vibe, it definitely looks like, it's going back to kind of the Street Fighter 3, or not Street, yeah, like Third Strike roots with kind of the hip-hop and stuff, with a little bit of the aesthetic of Street Fighter 4, which is more around the kind of the ink, like the ink blocks and stuff like that, like calligraphy. Street Fighter 4 used a little bit of that in their art style. Street Fighter 6 is using a lot more like graffiti and things like that, which is really, really dope. So I'm really excited about that personally. Just it has a different vibe. The music, they updated all the music for all the characters, and this is actually the first time where Street Fighter is going past Third Strike. So everybody's a little bit older. The story has kind of progressed. Street Fighter 5 had a weird ass story. I'm not gonna talk about that at all. But everybody gets to progress a little bit. So everybody's a little bit older. Their stories have changed. We can see where they are now. So, one of the things I was really excited about for Street Fighter 6 was it seemed more offensive focused, and playing the beta, it is more offensive focused. My one gripe with the beta was when you first go online, your character is in the modern setting. Modern is it's a simplified control setting that they implemented for Street Fighter 6, because a lot of games kind of use it. DMF Duel use it, but if you want to go back, Marvel vs. Capcom use a simplified setting where you have light, medium, heavy, and a special button, and then you have like auto combos and things like that. So that's where your characters default. And I literally lost my first couple of matches in the beta because I was like, wait, what is on monitor? And then I used a 6-button fight pad on PC. And it was really confusing at first. So after I kind of got the classic, I got a little bit better. I still took a lot of L's before I started to win. And I started to kind of figure it out. I still didn't really figure out everything. I played about 8.5 hours of the beta. I was working in between, so I couldn't play as much as I would have liked. But I did get about 8.5 hours into the beta, and I really, really enjoyed it. I did play with Jury. I want to play with Jury. If you know me, you know I am a Cammy player. I've been maining Cammy for a few Street Fighters now, but I also am I think every Street Fighter player has a pocket Ryu or Ken, like you just do, because it's hard not to have one of them. But I want to play with Jury, even though Cammy is going to be in the game based off of leaks. She will be in it. But I want to play with Jury because I want to play with Jury in 4, and I didn't play with Jury until the end of the game's life cycle, but I really liked Jury's kit in 4. I didn't like her kit in 5, but I think they improved her a little bit, but I just didn't like the way that they made her in 5. I'm really feeling what they did with her in 4, where she always has really good buttons. She has pretty solid, like, normal and good poke tools, but her combo potential is off the chain. She does really good stuff. You know, I didn't like what they did with her projectile, because in Street Fighter 4, she just had a projectile at all times. Now you have to get her her resource. I forget what it's called, like her feng shui resource, in order to do the low fireball. But it's here and there. So just gotta learn how to play with her. But after I kind of got used to like what she does, where some of her buttons were, it was a lot of fun. Ken gave me problems. Like I really enjoy I didn't have a lot of issues with other Jury players. I can kind of handle other Juries. I remember I went to I played a Guile, and we played a bunch of matches. Like, I think he won most of them, but I was able to get a couple of wins off of him and started to kind of get my feet wet in the game, started to really understand what I needed to do. And Guile was fun to play against. Ken gave me problems. Ryu was probably 50-50. Kim didn't. I beat the first few Kims I played, and then Kim gave me some problem when I played some higher, like some better skill players with Kim. Luke was kind of a problem, but I gotta get used to what Luke does. Jamie wasn't really an issue. Chun-Li was kind of a problem because I think Chun-Li can do a lot of stuff that you do. It also means just learning how certain moves are because, like if you have, in fighting games, an overhead you have to block high, because if you block an overhead low, you'll always get hit. Well, in Street Fighter 6, jumping attacks are cross-ups and they're overheads, so you have to block high. You have to block high, and if they cross you up, you have to block high and the opposite direction so you don't get crossed up. And I didn't realize that I was learning like what characters' overheads were. Like Luke has like a wheel kick, it's an overhead, and I kept getting hit by it until I realized, oh, that's an overhead. If he's spaced, if he's at a certain distance, I gotta make sure I'm blocking high. And as I started blocking high, I could handle that Luke, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Chun-Li gave me problems with her. I think her split leg kick, her Hinshincho, her split leg flipping kick. That's also an overhead, and it hits high, and I kept getting hit with it because my brain is like, I could just block it normally, but I kept getting hit. And Kim was probably my worst matchup. Like Kim was just giving me problems. I think I was just frustrated, like because Ken's his crazy kicks, like his kicks where he can go low high and high low, like those kicks were fucking me up, and I was just like, I was having so much problems with Ken. And some of it was just me. I hadn't learned Yuri's buttons yet, and I hadn't learned a lot of the mechanics, but also I just wasn't ready for that matchup. And Ken's combo potential is nuts. Like I faced this one guy, we played maybe like 15 matches, and he won. I'm pretty sure he won all of them because I was still in the learning phase. But man, like Ken is a problem. I like parrying. I need to learn how to parry. I didn't parry enough, which sucks. I didn't parry enough. You like drive impact can be a problem, but again, it's if you space it, if you look at where you're spaced and how much meter that they have, you can kind of figure out when you drive impact. And I remember me and the guy that actually played Guile, we were going back and forth, and we kept drive impact. And you can jump out of the way of, so we both kept jumping each other's drive impacts for about 15 seconds of us just doing it, where we knew the other one was gonna do it. So that was kind of fun that we were like reading each other and knew it was coming. But the game feels so good. Like when you get a good drive impact, you get a good combo. It feels good, looks good. Like I love all like the paint splats from like when you do your drive impact. Every character has like wherever their primary colors are. The drive impact is like that representation of them. So Ken's is red and orange, which was his traditional gi color. Chun's, of course, like that light blue and yellow. Guile's is green and yellow. Ryu's is black and white. Like Yuri's is black, white with a little bit of pink. And so yeah, it's just like, and I kind of like that. Like Luke's drive impact when it hits is orange and blue. But I like that. I kind of like the little splash of color. Just I love the way it feels. I love how artsy it is. It feels really good. It doesn't learn anything. I was having problems with on Wake Up. Like I was getting like okied and shimmied like crazy on Wake Up. I was like, wait, I can't do anything. And I think I actually was watching Max. I think if you time it right, you can actually parry on Wake Up. And I think that can help you against certain media attacks, with something I didn't get a chance to test out. But yeah, because it seemed like, man, like and also the corner sucks. Like if you get put in the corner, you're in a bad spot, because if you block a drive impact, it pushes you back. So if you block a drive impact and you're in a corner, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna hit the wall and you're gonna get comboed after. So yeah, the corners are nasty. Like watching your drive gauge is something that you gotta get used to, because it's just an extra resource. Like your super art meter is just for your super arts. That's it. And then your drive gauge does everything else. Like you always get it back when you're always using it too. So it's always this balance of, what do you want to use your drive impact for? Are you going to use it for parrying? Are you going to use it for drive impacts? Are you going to use it for drive cancels? Are you going to use it for EX attacks? Because I end up using Yuri's, her EX, I forget what it's called, like her uppercut. I use that as an EX a lot. So yeah, stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. I really think Street Fighter 6 is going to, it's just giving me that vibe of what Street Fighter 4 did, because Street Fighter 4 was so big in 2008. I think when Street Fighter 4 initially came out, it was massive. Like it was just huge. Like it revitalized the fighting game community. And I think Street Fighter 6 has the potential to do that as well. Just how much it's styled, how hype everyone is for it, how much just people are just like looking forward to it, and just like it just has this vibe where they're actually adding single player content, and it's just like it just seems like it's gonna be this bundle of joy. Like, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to see all the pro players go crazy, like seeing all the new players that come into Street Fighter 6, like all the tournaments and stuff. It's gonna be nuts. Like, it comes out June 3rd, and I'm pretty sure they're probably gonna have one more closed beta before the game comes out. I'm just sure of it. There's gonna be one more. Since the last one was in March, the next one's probably gonna be in since the last one was in December, I'm assuming the last one's probably gonna be in March, because you think if it's in March, you have April, May, and the game comes out really at the start of June. So I'm thinking probably March there will be one more beta. It'll be March or April. There'll probably be one more beta before the game comes out, and it might end up being an open beta, so they get as many people as they can in, see how the servers do, just stress it out as much as possible, and really work out some of those bugs. But I'm really excited for Street Fighter 6. I think Street Fighter 6 is gonna push fighting games forward, and I just think it's gonna get people back into fighting games, like what Street Fighter 4 did. I think after Street Fighter 4, there's been this renaissance of fighting games where we had, of course, Tekken 7 has been a banger. And Tekken 7 has been because Street Fighter 5 didn't do as well as people thought, and Tekken 7 really took over that spot. Smash Brothers, Smash Brothers 4 went absolutely insane. You have those two. You still have Guilty Gear Strive, which is doing really well. You have DNF Duel, which is really fun, has been creative. Then you have Skullgirls is still holding. They're still adding characters to Skullgirls. You have them fighting herds and a lot of other indie games, a lot of other smaller games that are just holding it down. And people are still playing some of the classic games. I didn't know there was a whole scene for Fight for New York. There's a whole fighting game scene and a whole community and a tier list for Def Jam Fight for New York, which I didn't even know about. If you watch some of those games are wild. If you watch some highly high skilled Def Jam Fight for New York, it's crazy. It's a lot of fun. And then they have a community. People come up wearing jerseys and hip hop stuff, and they just beat the shit out of each other in the game. It's fantastic. That's why I love fighting games. It's literally it's chess, but you're in motion. It's just because when you really start thinking about fighting games, you start really trying to understand what the other person's doing. Of course, some people like button mash and stuff like that, and you can't. It's hard to beat those type of people. But when you're playing against someone who has a plan, who's trying to execute a plan, you're like, okay, what are they trying? What do they want to do? How do I stop them from doing that? And how do I get my offense in? It's really where fighting games can really shine. And I'm really excited for Street Fighter 6. I think it's gonna be great. I think Capcom did a really great job of presenting it. Some people were talking about the box art with Luke on it. I don't care that much about the box art. I'm gonna buy the game anywhere. It doesn't matter to me. Luke was the face of the game. A lot of people didn't realize this. They even said it when they introduced Luke in Street Fighter 5. When they added that extra season, they said Luke was gonna be kind of the point character moving forward. Ryu will still be there, but Luke is kind of taking over that role of the main, kind of the face of the game story. He'll be that character. And in the story mode, Luke is the person who introduces you into Buckler, and he kind of introduces you, and he kind of helps you through the tutorial and stuff like that. So Luke is gonna be on the box, and he's kind of brass, kind of goofy, character. And people are they're trying to make us like Luke and push Luke. No, they were gonna push Luke regardless. Because a lot of people, this is a Street Fighter 5 character, he's in Street Fighter 6. No, they put him in 5 because he was going to be the face of 6. So they figured, why not just put him in 5 and see where it goes. He was going to be the face of 6 regardless of if he was in 5 or not. If they didn't have that last season, Luke would still be the face of Street Fighter 6. You just wouldn't know who the hell he was and where he came from. So I'm excited. I can't wait. June 3rd can't come soon enough. I'm probably going to take off 2 days of work just to play Street Fighter 6. I will be getting it on PC. You'll be able to, we'll be able to, I'll hand out some L's on PC, Hopefully by then I have a new graphics card on my computer and I can really run it how I want to. So we'll see. But I have a few months to get that taken care of. So thank you so much for checking out this brand new episode of the Nerd Barbershop Podcast. Again, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support, so much for the listens, so much for the likes on YouTube, because the podcast does go on YouTube as well. You can check it out on the YouTube channel, Slicing Dice and Gaming Entertainment. And yeah, just we're going to keep doing it. We're going to get into some more podcasts. Hopefully 2023 I could podcast a little bit more, maybe add some other stuff. I don't know, but we will see. Like I said, once again, thank you so much for rocking out with me and the podcast once again. Have a happy and blessed new year. I'll see you all in 2023. Like always, Slicing Dice and Gaming, it's not just a motto, it's lifestyle. I'll see you next podcast. Later.